everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We love to take fascinating material and really kind of boil it down to the essential elements so you can be in the know quickly, effectively. And we are focusing on something today that we all do constantly, right?
Absolutely.
We're talking about talking, and specifically, we're going to be diving into common English phrases for daily conversations. We've got some excerpts here from an Improve Your English resource.
Cool.
Sounds like it might even be a podcast itself based on the format.
Interesting.
But our mission here is simple. We want to give you those practical, immediately usable phrases so you can sound more natural and fluent in everyday situations. We don't want to overwhelm you with too much at once.
Right.
So let's just jump right in and start with something we do all the time.
Okay.
Greetings and small talk.
I think what's interesting right away is, we always start with hello, but the source here is giving us some really common alternatives.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how's it going? Or what's up? Or how have you been? And, it instantly creates a more relaxed, friendly tone.
Absolutely.
It's subtle, but it can really change the dynamic of that interaction right from the get-go.
And it's not even just the greetings themselves. It's that natural back and forth.
Yeah.
The resource gives us some typical responses like, I'm good, thanks. How about you? Or, not too bad. Pretty good, thanks.
Yeah.
It's like there's a little dance to it.
I like that, a dance.
This exchange of pleasantries, and just having these phrases ready can make it so much smoother.
Yeah, it's understanding the rhythm of that casual greeting.
Exactly.
Okay,
so we've got some better ways to kick off a conversation.
Yeah.
Where does our deep dive take us next?
Well, I think next up, the material really addresses a practical need, which is asking for help or clarification.
Okay.
And what's interesting here is how subtle phrasing can make a difference in how your request is received. So instead of a very direct, can you help me?
Yeah.
They suggest softer approaches like, could you give me a hand?
Thanks.
Would you mind helping me out? And notice that they use more of a question format,
Okay.
which gives the other person a sense of agency. And they might be more likely to want to help.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, it taps into our natural inclination to help when asked politely.
Less of a demand and more of a request.
Yeah, exactly.
Acknowledges that you're asking for their time and effort.
Precisely. And then when something isn't clear, instead of just saying, I don't understand, which can be a bit blunt,
Right.
the resource suggests, I'm a little confused. Could you explain that again?
Okay.
And this kind of softens the situation, focuses on your own understanding rather than saying, hey, you weren't clear enough.
Right. That's a really valuable distinction.
Yeah.
What about those moments where you just didn't hear something properly?
Yeah, so for those moments, the source offers phrases like, sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't quite catch that. Could you say it again?
Okay.
Or even, what do you mean by that?
Got it.
So again, polite ways of indicating that need for repetition or explanation without being abrupt or making the other person feel like they weren't speaking clearly.
Right.
It's about maintaining that smooth flow of conversation.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're getting better at navigating those moments where we need assistance or clarity.
Yeah.
What about when we want to share our own thoughts and feelings?
Right. So then the resource goes on to expressing opinions, and it highlights how we can move beyond the simple, I think.
Okay.
So phrases like, in my opinion, if you ask me, I'd say that can add more emphasis or, signal that you've given something consideration.
Right. It's almost like framing your statement more deliberately.
Exactly. It's not just a random thought that you're throwing out there.
Right.
And then crucially, it covers how to agree and disagree politely.
Ooh, that's important.
Because this is where communication can really break down sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And one phrase I love is, that's a good point.
Yes.
Because you can acknowledge someone else's idea even if you don't fully agree with it. Shows you're listening and considering their perspective.
And then you have that straightforward agreement. I totally agree with you, which is, clear and direct. But I think the real gem here is, I see what you mean, but.
Ooh, yes.
That little but signals a difference of opinion.
Right.
But starting with, I see what you mean, validates their understanding first.
Yes.
It's like opening the door for more constructive disagreement,
Exactly. It's a gentle pivot. And, if we connect this back to the bigger picture,
Yes.
think about how much more productive conversations become when we feel heard and understood, even when there are different viewpoints.
Right.
So these phrases can really facilitate that.
So we're expressing ourselves more effectively and respectfully.
Yes.
What about making plans and inviting people to do things?
So here's where the resource gives us some friendlier alternatives to just saying, let's meet.
Okay.
Instead, it suggests gauging availability first with a question like, are you free this weekend?
Right.
Or offering a specific appealing option like, do you want to grab coffee sometime?
I see.
And even a more concrete suggestion like, how about we meet up tomorrow?
Yeah.
And these phrases, I think, just feel less demanding on someone's time,
Yeah.
more like a genuine invitation to connect.
They do sound more inviting and less like you're trying to schedule an appointment.
Exactly. And then the suggested responses are equally important.
Okay.
So that positive, enthusiastic acceptance, like, sounds great, I'd love to, is always good.
Uh-huh.
But the polite decline, I'd love to, but I'm busy maybe another time.
Yes.
Crucial for maintaining those good relationships, expressing regret while keeping the possibility open.
Right.
And then, of course, the very practical, let me check my schedule and get back to you.
We've all been there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've made plans, we've had our interaction. How do we wrap things up in a positive way?
Right. So the source then moves on to polite expressions and how to close conversations gracefully.
Okay.
So instead of a simple thank you, they suggest more emphatic options. Like, I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Much appreciate it. And these convey a greater sense of gratitude and leave that stronger positive impression.
It's like that little extra warmth that shows you truly valued their help or time.
Exactly. And then moving beyond just goodbye, the suggestions like, take care, see you later, catch you soon.
Right.
These feel so much more personal and friendly.
They signal that you value the connection, even if the conversation itself is ending?
Absolutely. It's a nice way to end that interaction on a good note.
Okay, so we've got greetings requests, opinions, plans, goodbyes covered. Now we're moving into some really practical phrases for those everyday specific situations.
Yes. So the resource gives us some really useful phrases for when you're at a restaurant.
Okay.
Things like, you know how to politely get attention. Excuse me. Or could I see the menu, please? I'll have the, dish name, please. Or could we get the check, please?
Right.
These are all those essential phrases for a smooth dining experience.
Absolutely.
It shows you know what you're doing and you can interact confidently with the staff.
Takes away that feeling of being unsure or awkward when you're trying to communicate what you need.
Exactly. And then similarly for shopping.
Okay.
The resource offers practical questions like, do you have this in a different size? How much does this cost? Can I pay by card?
Right. Those are the things you'd use all the time.
Constantly.
It shows how mastering these seemingly small situation-specific phrases can make a big difference in your daily life.
Huge difference.
The resource also touches on some more nuanced areas like apologizing and making requests.
It does.
Uh-huh.
So when it comes to apologizing, the source really emphasizes sincerity.
Okay.
So it offers options beyond just a simple sorry. Things like, I sincerely apologize. I didn't mean to upset you. My apologies for the mistake.
I see.
And these phrases convey a deeper level of regret and show you're taking responsibility for your actions.
It demonstrates a greater awareness of the impact of your actions on others.
Absolutely.
And then when it comes to asking for things, it's not just what you ask, but how you ask.
So true. And what's really interesting here is the shift from potentially direct or demanding language to much more considerate phrasing.
Okay.
So instead of just saying, give me that,
Yeah.
the resource suggests, would you mind passing me that?
Yeah.
Could you do me a favor? Or I'd really appreciate it if you could. So that inclusion of would and could really softens the request and shows respect for the other person's willingness to help.
Yeah.
It frames it as a choice rather than an expectation.
That little bit of indirectness can make all the difference in whether someone is happy to help you or feels put upon.
Absolutely.
It's really a key aspect of politeness in English.
It is. And, in professional context, using these more polite forms of requests can be crucial for building positive relationships and fostering a collaborative environment.
So, see, our listener in this deep dive, we've explored a really valuable set of practical English phrases.
We have.
Straight from this source material. From those initial greetings all the way through to handling those specific situations and making those polite requests. These phrases are all about making your daily communication smoother, more confident, ultimately more effective.
Yeah, and the real power isn't just knowing the phrases, but actually using them.
Yes.
Start paying attention to how native speakers use them, consciously incorporate them into your own conversations.
Right.
That's how you truly internalize them and see a difference in your fluency and confidence.
So as you go about your day, I want you to think about this.
Okay.
How might mastering these seemingly small everyday communication phrases open up new opportunities.
Yeah.
For connection and understanding in our increasingly interconnected world?
It's a good question.
What other subtle communication skills, things we might not even think about, could have a surprisingly significant impact on our interactions with others?
Interesting.
It's definitely something worth considering. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Thanks, everyone.